The rain-slicked streets of Sacramento gleamed under the sodium lamps like veins pulsing with secrets. An autumn hail gripped the steering wheel of her battered Subaru until her knuckles ached. The anonymous tip burning a hole in her inbox. Meet me at the state capitol fountain at midnight. Come alone. She knows everything about Voss. Her heart slammed against her ribs as she parked in the shadows, the weight of her recorder heavy in her coat pocket. But it was the woman's voice from the burner phone call, low, trembling, laced with something dangerously intimate, that had dragged her here, into the storm. And then, emerging from the mist like a ghost from her own half-forgotten dreams, Riley stepped into the light, her dark eyes locking onto Autumn's with a recognition that felt like a promise already broken. Autumn had always chased stories like they were lovers who wouldn't stay, fierce pursuits through dimly lit newsrooms and back-alley tips. Her byline a scar on the pages of the Sacramento Sentinel. 32. She was the paper's rising star. The one they called when scandals simmered just below the surface of California's gilded underbelly. Governor Harlan Voss was her white whale, a silver-tongued politician from the Central Valley, all broad smiles and Bible quotes, who'd risen from almond farmer to the state's highest office on promises of clean water and family values. But whispers in the Capitol corridors spoke of darker waters, kickbacks from agribusiness giants, envelopes stuffed with cash in the dead of night. Autumn had chased those leads for months, her apartment a war zone of pinned photos and scribbled notes, coffee stains mapping her insomnia. That midnight meeting at the fountain wasn't just a lead. It felt like fate's cruel joke. Riley Donovan appeared as if conjured from the fog rolling off the Sacramento River. Her trench coat clinging damply to slender shoulders. Chestnut hair pulled into a loose knot that begged to be unraveled. She was in her late 20s. Maybe. With a kind of quiet intensity that made Autumn's pulse stutter. High cheekbones shadowed by lips pressed into a line that hid either fear or resolve. "You're her," Riley said simply. No preamble. Her voice carrying the faint lilt of someone who'd grown up in the coastal fog of Mendocino. Not the flat vowels of the valley. The one who wrote about the waterboard bribes last year. I read it in a diner at 3 a.m. And I thought, maybe she's the only one who'll listen. Autumn's reporter instincts fired like synapses in overdrive. She fumbled for her recorder. But Riley's hand shot out. Gentle yet firm. Closing over hers. The touch was electric. A spark that lingered even after Riley pulled away. And Autumn hated how it made her breath catch. "Not here," Riley murmured, glancing at the empty plaza where security cameras blinked like distant stars. "There's a place off J Street. An old speakeasy. Follow me." They drove in convoy through the rain-swept streets. Autumn's wipers slashing rhythmically. Her mind racing ahead to the Pulitzer dreams this could birth. But beneath the ambition gnawed something softer. Unbidden. A curiosity about the woman in the rearview. The way her taillights wavered like hesitant confessions. The speakeasy was a relic hidden behind a laundromat. All exposed brick and jazz humming from hidden speakers. The bartender a grizzled vet who poured whiskey neat without asking. They claimed a corner booth. The vinyl creaking under them like old bones settling. Riley slid a USB drive across the table. Her fingers brushing Autumn's again. Intentional this time. Or so it seemed in the low light. Emails. Wire transfers. Voss's chief of staff. Harlan's right-hand man. Funneling money from pesticide firms to offshore accounts. It's enough to bury him. Her words tumbled out in a rush. Laced with the bitterness of someone who'd tasted betrayal firsthand. Autumn plugged the drive into her laptop, scanning files that painted a damning portrait. Voss, the family man, laundering funds through fake nonprofits. His signature digital ink on deals that poisoned the very aquifers he'd sworn to protect. But it was Riley's story that hooked her deeper. She was Voss's communications director, 30. Brilliant. Hired fresh from a Berkeley poli-sci master's. Her idealism a shield against the machine. I believed in him, Riley said, her voice cracking like thin ice. Thought he was the change we needed. Then I saw the ledgers. The late nights where he'd disappear into that oak-paneled office. Emerging with that same smug smile. She traced the rim of her glass. Eyes distant. And Autumn leaned in. Not just for the quote, but for the woman unraveling before her. Thread by fragile thread. As the hours bled into dawn, the whiskey loosened tongues. Autumn shared fragments of her own armor, growing up in a trailer park outside Fresno. Her mother's endless shifts at the packing plant. The way journalism had been her escape hatch from a life of scraping by. I don't trust easy, she admitted, the words slipping out unbidden. Riley's gaze softened, a mirror to her own guarded heart. Neither do I. But you're different. You see the rot and you fight it. Their knees brushed under the table. A accidental graze that neither pulled away from. And in that charged silence, Autumn felt the first stirrings of something dangerous, not just a story, but a pull. Magnetic and terrifying. By the time they stepped back into the gray morning, the USB clutched like contraband in Autumn's pocket. Promises hung between them like smoke. We can't be seen together, Riley warned. Her hand lingering on Autumn's arm. Warm through the damp sleeve. Not until it's out. Call me on the burner. Autumn nodded. But as she watched Riley's taillights fade into the traffic, she wondered if the real scandal was the one blooming in her chest. A quiet ache that whispered of nights not yet shared. Of touches that might shatter everything. The next week blurred into a frenzy. Autumn holed up in her one-bedroom in Midtown. The walls papered with Voss's campaign posters turned accusatory stares. She cross-referenced the files with public records. Chased down blind alleys with sources who clammed up at the mention of Riley's name. Her editor. Grizzled Tom Riley with his perpetual scowl and unlit cigar. Barked for progress. But Autumn guarded her source like a lover's secret. Late nights bled into early mornings. Fueled by takeout pho and black coffee. Her mind drifting to Riley's laugh rare. But when it came, it lit the room like contraband sunlight. They met twice more. In stolen slivers of time. Once in a coffee shop in East Sac. Huddled over lattes that went cold. Riley sketching timelines on napkins. The other in Golden Gate Park during a weekend escape to the city. Pretending it was research. Not refuge. San Francisco's fog wrapped around them like a conspirator. The bridge's silhouette a hazy promise as they walked the paths lined with eucalyptus. Why risk this for me? Autumn asked. The question heavy with subtext. Riley stopped, turning to face her. The wind tugging at her scarf. Because you're the first person in years who makes me feel seen. Not the polished press secretary, but me. Their fingers intertwined briefly. A stolen moment amid the joggers and tourists. And Autumn's world tilted. The story fracturing under the weight of want. But cracks appeared. A late-night call from Riley. Voice hushed. He's suspicious. Had me pull all my emails today. Paranoia seeped in. Autumn's sleep fractured by dreams of headlines and handcuffs. She pushed harder. Drafting the piece in fevered bursts. Words like daggers aimed at Voss's empire. The Governor's Poison Legacy, she titled it. The lead a gut punch, Harlan Voss. Savior of the soil. Architect of its slow death. As the word count climbed toward publication, so did the intimacy. A brush of lips in Riley's car after a briefing. Tentative and tasting of rain. Whispered confessions over encrypted texts about exes who never understood. About the loneliness of loving in shadows. Autumn, who'd sworn off entanglements after a college heartbreak in Seattle. A barista named Lena who'd vanished with her heart and half her savings, found herself unraveling. Riley was sunlight on frost. Melting defenses she built brick by brick. Yet doubt lingered. A shadow at the edge of every touch. Who was Riley? Really? The files mentioned her sparingly. A ghost in the machine. Loyal until she wasn't. Autumn shoved the questions down, burying them under kisses that deepened with each meeting. Bodies pressing close in the anonymity of hotel rooms off the grid. It was passion born of urgency. Riley's hands mapping Autumn's skin like uncharted territory. Gasps mingling with murmured pleas for more time. More truth. More of this fragile us. The night before the story dropped, they lay tangled in sheets at a no-tell motel in West Sac. The hum of the highway a lullaby. What happens after? Autumn whispered, tracing the curve of Riley's hip. Riley's eyes, dark pools in the neon glow, held secrets. We run with it. Together. But as Autumn drifted to sleep, Riley's phone buzzed once. Screen lighting her face with a message from an unknown number. She's getting close. Pull back. Riley silenced it, her expression unreadable, and pulled Autumn closer, as if apology could rewrite the dawn. The byline hit the Sentinel's front page like a thunderclap. Digital ink spreading across the internet before the presses even hummed. The governor's poison legacy. How Harlan Voss sold California's soul for dirty dollars. Autumn watched from her desk as the servers buckled under traffic. Emails flooding in from activists and insiders alike. Tom slapped her back hard enough to bruise. His grin feral. Kid. This is your ticket out of this podunk op-ed mill. National syndication by lunch. But Triumph tasted metallic. Laced with the afterimage of Riley's face that morning, pale, resolute, kissing her goodbye with a fervor that bordered on farewell. Voss's office erupted in damage control. Press conferences devolved into shouting matches. The governor's jowls quivering as he decried fake news from radical elements. Riley was front and center. Her poise a masterclass in deflection. Fielding questions with smiles that didn't reach her eyes. Autumn watched the live feed on her laptop, heart twisting at the sight of her, flawless in a navy sheath, hairpin-like armor. A text buzzed, proud of you. Meet tonight? The usual spot. Autumn's thumbs hovered, then typed yes. Got yes. The speakeasy welcomed them like old accomplices. The jazz now a victory march. Riley arrived flushed, shedding her coat to reveal a silk blouse the color of twilight, unbuttoned just enough to tease. They ordered champagne, illicit bubbles fizzing against the gravity of the moment. You did it, Riley breathed, clinking glasses, her free hand finding Autumn's under the table. The donors are pulling out. Investigations launching by morning. Autumn searched her face for cracks, but found only that luminous gaze, pulling her under like a riptide. They talked in loops about the fallout, the frenzy, but words gave way to touches. Riley's fingers tracing patterns on Autumn's wrist, sending shivers up her spine. I couldn't have done this without you, Autumn murmured, leaning across the scarred wood. Riley's response was a kiss, slow and deep, tasting of victory and something sharper, like regret distilled. The booth became their world. Lips exploring necks, hands wandering beneath hems, the risk of exposure only heightening the fire. When they broke apart, breathless, Riley whispered, "Let's get out of here. My place." Tonight, Riley's apartment overlooked the American River. A sleek loft in a converted warehouse downtown, minimalist lines. Bookshelves groaning with policy tomes and dog-eared poetry. It smelled of sage and sandalwood, a far cry from autumn's cluttered chaos. They tumbled through the door, coats discarded in a trail, bodies colliding against the exposed brick. Riley was voracious, hands deft and demanding, peeling away layers until skin met skin in the soft glow of pendant lights. Autumn arched under her, lost in the rhythm of gasps and sighs. Riley's mouth a revelation on her collarbone, her thighs. "You're everything," Riley panted. Eyes locked on Autumn's as they crested together, the city lights winking approval through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Afterward, sated and tangled, they lay in the rumpled duvet, fingers interlaced. Autumn traced the faint scar on Riley's ribcage, a surfing mishap from her college days. She explained with a laugh that vibrated through them both. Stories flowed like wine. Riley's childhood in a crumbling Victorian in Eureka. Her father's fishing boat lost to the sea. The scholarship that dragged her south to Berkeley, where she'd first tasted the thrill of power in student senate. "I wanted to fix things," she said softly, head on Autumn's chest. "Thought Voss was the key. You showed me the lockpick." Autumn shared her own ghosts. The mother who died too young from factory fumes. The father who drowned his grief in Bud Light, leaving her to fend for herself at 16. "Journalism was my rebellion," she admitted, voice thick. "Chasing truth so I wouldn't chase shadows." Riley lifted her head, kissing the salt from her lashes. "You're no shadow. You're the light that burns it all away." In that vulnerability, love took root, tentative tendrils wrapping around ribs, promising permanence amid the storm. But dawn brought harbingers. Riley's phone erupted, aides clamoring for spin, Voss's voice booming through speakerphone. "Donovan, get your ass in here. We're fighting this." She silenced it, but the spell fractured. Autumn dressed in the kitchen, brewing coffee strong enough to cut the haze. "What's next for you?" she asked, handing over a mug etched with a faded state seal. Riley's smile faltered. "Resign. Testify. Maybe. Start over." Her eyes pleaded for belief, and Autumn gave it, pulling her close for a kiss that lingered like a vow. The week devolved into a circus. Protests clogged the Capitol steps, signs decrying Voss's venom, while counter-demonstrations waved flags and Bibles. Autumn fielded interview requests from CNN, her face plastered on cable news as the whistleblower's champion. But privately, she and Riley carved out sanctuaries, picnics by the river at twilight, where they'd feed each other strawberries and dream of escapes to Big Sur, midnight drives to the Delta. Windows down, Riley's playlist of Joni Mitchell weaving through the reeds. Intimacy deepened, bodies learning languages of touch, Riley's preference for slow builds, Autumn's for fervent claims, each encounter a affirmation against the chaos. Yet fissures widened. A source in the AG's office tipped Autumn to inconsistencies in the files, timestamps manipulated, one email chain looping back to Riley's own inbox. Coincidence, she told herself, shoving the doubt into a drawer. But at their next rendezvous, in a cabin Riley rented up in the Sierra foothills, the air thickened with unspoken waits. They hiked to a waterfall, mist veiling their laughter. But as they stripped for a swim in the icy pool, Riley's phone slipped from her pack. Screen alight with a text, "She's too close." Leaked the counter-narrative. Cinder HV. Autumn froze. Water lapping at her calves. The world narrowing to that glow. Riley snatched it up. Face draining of color. It's nothing. A misfire. But the lie hung heavy. And when autumn pressed, Riley's eyes welled. I had to protect us. He suspects you because of me. The explanation tumbled out, Voss's paranoia. His threats to bury Riley's career. The fabricated log she planted to throw hounds off the scent. It was for the story. For us. Autumn wanted to believe. Pulling her into the water. Their bodies slick and urgent against the rocks. Passion a balm for betrayal's sting. But as they dried by the fire that night, wrapped in wool blankets, a seed of fracture took hold. Quiet and insidious. Back in Sacramento, the investigation gained teeth. Subpoenas flew. Voss's allies jumping ship like rats from a sinking levee. Autumn's piece spawned editorials, podcasts, even a late-night monologue skewering the governor's hypocrisy. She and Riley navigated the minefield with coded texts and ghosted meetups. Their love a clandestine bloom in the rubble. One evening, after a rally where protesters chanted Autumn's name, Riley surprised her at the Sentinel's offices with takeout from a hole-in-the-wall Thai place. They ate on the rooftop. City sprawl at their feet. Riley's head on her shoulder. I love you, she said simply. The words at anchor in the gale. Autumn echoed them. Heart swelling. But her eyes caught a flicker in the distance, paparazzi lenses glinting like accusations. Sleep that night was fitful. Dreams of drowning in Incan River mud. Morning brought the hammer. A leaked memo. Voss accusing Riley of orchestration. Painting her as the vengeful exade scorned by rejection. The twist? It claimed Riley had fabricated the files for personal gain. A jilted lover's revenge. Autumn's phone exploded with notifications. Colleagues side-eyeing her in the bullpen. She raced to Riley's loft, pounding on the door until it swung open. Riley disheveled. Eyes red-rimmed. It's lies, she insisted, pulling Autumn inside. But the memo bore Riley's digital signature. Irrefutable. And in that moment, the love that had ignited her world felt like the fuse to its end. Betrayal settled in Autumn's bones like Sacramento's winter chill. A pervasive ache that no amount of chamomile could soothe. She paced her apartment, the leaked memo open on her laptop. Its words a venomous script. Riley Donovan, ambitious operative turned saboteur, forging documents to topple her mentor for a bigger stage. Voss's camp spun it masterfully, press releases dripping sympathy for the betrayed leader, anonymous quotes from insiders painting Riley as unstable. Her Berkeley idealism curdled into grudge. Autumn's own story, once unassailable, now teetered. Footnotes questioning the source's veracity. She confronted Riley that afternoon in a park off Alhambra Boulevard. The autumn leaves crunching underfoot like brittle trust. Riley arrived bundled in an oversized sweater. Her usual poise cracked. Hands twisting a paper cup of tea. It's him, she said before Autumn could speak. Voice raw. Voss planted it. I confronted him yesterday, told him I was going public as the whistleblower. He laughed. Said he'd make me the villain. Proof spilled from her bag. Recordings of that meeting. Voss's baritone oily with threat. You'll be the crazy bitch who cried wolf. Donovan. No one'll touch you after. Autumn, listen. The audio a gut-wrench. But doubt lingered. A whisper asking if the forgery in the memo matched the manipulations in the original files. They walked the paths in silence at first. The river's murmur a neutral witness. Riley reached for her hand, and Autumn let her. The warmth a lifeline. I didn't forge anything for the story, Riley insisted, stopping under a canopy of oaks. But I did alter one timestamp to protect a low-level staffer who helped me copy the drives. It was minor. Ethical gray. The admission landed like a stone in still water, ripples distorting the reflection of their love. Autumn pulled away. Eyes stinging. Gray? This job is black and white. Riley. Truth or lies? How am I supposed to trust? You can, Riley cut in. Fear. Stepping close enough for their breaths to mingle. Because I chose you. Over him. Over safety. I love you enough to burn it all. The kiss that followed was desperate. A clash of lips and tears under the dappled light. Hands fisting in fabric as if to anchor against the unraveling. They sank to a bench. Foreheads pressed. Whispering apologies and affirmations until the park emptied. Dusk painting them in bruised purples. Forgiveness was a fragile bridge. But Autumn crossed it. Driven by the depth of what they'd built, the way Riley's laugh echoed in her quietest hours, the security of her body curving against hers in sleep. They retreated to Riley's loft, barricading against the world with drawn curtains and muted news feeds. Nights blurred into a cocoon of intimacy. Slow dances in the kitchen to Nina Simone records. Riley's fingers weaving through Autumn's hair as they talked futures, a cabin in the redwoods. Joint bylines on exposés that mattered. Sex was their sacrament. Tender explorations by candlelight. Riley's mouth tracing verses on Autumn's skin. Bodies sinking in a rhythm that drowned out the storm. But the scandal's maw widened. Federal agents raided Voss's offices, hauling boxes under the glare of news vans. Riley's name dominated the cycle. Her photo, that poised presser shot, flashed alongside mugshots of implicated donors. Autumn's editor pulled her into a glass-walled conference room. Face like thunder. This source of yours, Donovan, she's toxic now. Pull the plug or we'll retract. Autumn's defiance flared. The files hold up. It's Voss deflecting. Tom relented. But warned. Protect your ass. Hail. Love's blind, journalism's not. The pressure mounted, seeping into their sanctuary. Riley grew withdrawn, pacing during calls with lawyers, her vibrancy dimmed by depositions that loomed like guillotines. One evening, after a grueling day of dodging reporters outside the Capitol, she snapped, a shattered wine glass, shards glittering like accusations. They'll destroy me, she sobbed, sinking to the floor. Autumn knelt beside her, gathering the pieces, heart fracturing anew. Not if I fight. We'll expose the memo next. But as she held Riley through the tremors, a new tip arrived via secure drop. An envelope slid under her door, containing Voss's private emails to Riley, intimate, possessive, laced with my girl and late-night summons. Not lover, but protégé. Yet the tone reeked of control. A paternal grip twisted into something darker. Autumn confronted her gently. Over breakfast in bed. The emails spread like cards in a cruel solitaire. Riley's face crumpled. He was like a father. Mentored me. Pushed me forward. But it turned needy. When I pulled away, he clung harder. The confession unlocked more. Voss's rages behind closed doors. His favors demanded in shadowed corners. Nothing physical, but emotional extortion. Binding her loyalty with guilt. I stayed for the cause, Riley whispered. Until you showed me I could leave. Tears mingled as they made love that morning. Slow and healing. Autumn's touches reverent. As if to erase the ghosts. In the afterglow, Riley traced Autumn's jaw. You're my redemption. Emboldened, Autumn chased the new angle. Embedding the emails in a follow-up piece. Voss's shadow, the mentor who broke his star. It landed like napalm. Shifting narratives. Painting Riley as victim survivor. Allies emerged, women's groups. Ethics watchdogs, rallying with op-eds and fundraisers. For a breath. Hope flowered. They attended a quiet dinner at a farm-to-table spot in Fab 40s. Toasting with heirloom Reds. Riley's hand steady in hers under the tablecloth. We're winning, she said. Eyes alight for the first time in weeks. Yet the high was fleeting. A subpoena arrived for Riley, demanding her devices, her testimony under oath. Panic etched lines around her mouth, sleep evading them both. Autumn woke to find her staring out the window, silhouette stark against the city glow. What if they twist it? Riley murmured. Make me the liar. Autumn pulled her back to bed, bodies entwining in urgent comfort. Whispers of I believe you punctuating the dark. But dawn revealed the fracture's depth. Another leak. This one from Riley's own camp, a colleague testifying to her erratic behavior, hinting at fabricated logs. The betrayal stung deeper. Anonymous. Cutting from within. Autumn's resolve hardened. She dug. Unearthing the colleague's ties to Voss, a cousin. Payoffs traced through shell companies. The counterstory brewed. But exhaustion clawed at her. Love's labor a marathon with no finish. One night, after a heated argument, Riley accusing paranoia, Autumn demanding transparency, they circled each other like wary cats. Until Riley closed the gap. Kiss fierce and forgiving. Don't let him win, she breathed. Don't let him break us. They surrendered then. Passion a perch. Limbs tangled in a bid for absolution. As winter nipped at the delta winds, the case crested. Voss resigned in a tear-streaked address. Microphone trembling. Vowing to clear my name. Riley's hearing loomed. A coliseum of suits and stares. Autumn sat in the gallery. Heart in her throat as Riley took the stand. Voice steady reciting the rot she'd witnessed. Cross-examination was brutal. The prosecutor, a Voss ally, probing for cracks. But Riley held. Her gaze finding Autumn's in the crowd. A lifeline across the oak benches. When the gavel fell. No charges for her. Only commendations whispered in hallways. Relief crashed over them like a wave. They celebrated in whispers that night. Back in the loft. Champagne forgotten for the taste of skin. It's over, Riley gasped. Arching under Autumn's hands. But as they lay spent. Stars pricking the sky beyond the glass. A final envelope arrived, Voss's parting shot. Photos of them. Stolen kisses in the park. The motel silhouette. Blackmail's ghost. Warning of exposure. Riley's face hardened. He'll never stop. Autumn pulled her close. Resolve stealing. Then we fight smarter. Together. The photos arrived like specters in a plain manila folder, slipped under Riley's door while Autumn brewed tea in the loft's galley kitchen. She found Riley frozen in the entryway. The images splayed across the welcome mat. Grainy shots from a long-lens camera, capturing their park bench embrace. The motel windows glow with shadows entwined. Even a blurry frame of Riley's car idling outside Autumn's building. A note in block print. Resign quietly. Or these go viral. Protect your legacy. Donovan. Voss's scent clung to it. Cologne of entitlement. Riley's hand shook as she gathered them, crumpling the note but smoothing the photos with a tenderness that broke Autumn's heart. He's cornered. Lashing out. But her voice wavered. The bravado of the hearing evaporated. Autumn crossed the room in 3 strides, enveloping her. The scent of Riley's shampoo, lavender and sea salt, a balm against the bile rising in her throat. We'll trace it. Find the photographer. Turn this back on him. Riley nodded into her shoulder. But the embrace felt like clutching smoke. The intimacy they'd forged now weaponized. They spent the day in lockdown. Blinds drawn against the winter sun's weak glare. Piecing a defense. Autumn's contacts in the photojournalist union yielded a lead. A freelance stringer named Marco Ruiz. Known for capital gigs. His van spotted near the motel. Riley's lawyers drafted a cease and desist. But the real wound was psychic love exposed. Vulnerable to the public's maw. What if they out us? Riley whispered that afternoon. Curled on the couch with a throw blanket cocooning her knees. Not just the affair. But the queer angle. Voss's base, they'll crucify it. Autumn knelt before her. Hands on thighs. Thumbs tracing soothing circles. Let them. We're not ashamed. But the words tasted hollow. She'd seen the feeds. Trolls already sniffing for dirt on the Dyke reporter and her pet whistleblower. Her own queerness had been a quiet constant, dates in college bars. A pride flag tucked in her closet, but never fodder for headlines. Riley's history was patchier. A high school crush buried in Eureka's conservative tides. A fumbling affair in grad school that ended in ghosting. I've never been out. Not really, she admitted. Eyes downcast. Voss knew. Used it like a leash. The confession hung. A new layer to peel. They talked then. Really talked. Over mugs of spice cider on the balcony. The river a silver thread below. Riley unspooled her fears. The father's ghost. His homophobic rants over dinner. The isolation of ambition in straight-washed halls. Autumn shared her anchors. A chosen auntie in Fresno who'd taught her to love fiercely. The tattoo on her rib cage. A tiny rainbow etched post-breakup with Lena. Coming out isn't a switch, Autumn said softly. It's a spectrum. We shine when we're ready. Riley's hand found hers. Squeezing. And in that shared gaze, resolve kindled. But action demanded more. Autumn pitched a piece to a national mag. Stalked for the story. How Voss weaponizes privacy. It wove the photos into the narrative. Anonymizing their relationship, but exposing the governor's desperation. Tom greenlit a local version. And soon, Voss Warrior trended. Allies amplifying with stories of their own harassments. Marco Ruiz cracked under pressure. Confessing to the gig for a consulting fee from Voss's pack. Charges loomed for invasion. The tide turning once more. Amid the whirl. Their love adapted. Resilient as Delta willows. They escaped to Tahoe for a weekend. Riley's sister's empty cabin a haven of pine-scented air. Snow dusted the peaks as they snowshowed trails, laughter echoing off frozen lakes. Pauses filled with stolen kisses that warmed better than thermals. Evenings by the hearth. Riley reading aloud from Audre Lorde essays. Her voice a caress. Led to nights of unhurried passion. Fingers exploring with the leisure of lovers who knew time was theirs. "You're my safe harbor," Riley murmured one dawn. Lips brushing autumn's temple as sunlight slanted through iced panes. Return brought reality's bite. The federal probe deepened. Voss indicted on corruption counts. His mansion in Granite Bay a fortress of lawyers. Riley's resignation made headlines. Whistleblower steps down amid backlash. But support swelled. Job offers from NGOs. Invites to TED-style talks. Autumn's star ascended too. Panels on ethics. A book agent's sniff. Yet success amplified scrutiny. A tabloid ran a blind item. Reporter's steamy source, is it love or leverage? Whispers in the newsroom turned heads. Colleagues' congratulations laced with pitying glances. The strain tested them. A late-night fight erupted after a gala where Riley networked. Her charm drawing admirers, male, female, irrelevant. But the jealousy flared in Autumn like dry tinder. "You're flirting with escape," she accused. Voice sharp in the loft's echo. Riley whirled. Eyes flashing. "And you're suffocating me with suspicion. I chose you every damn time." Words escalated. Doors slammed. But silence bred regret. Autumn crashed on the couch, replaying the hurt, until Riley padded out at midnight, blanket in hand. "I'm sorry," she said, settling beside. Fear's the real stalker. They mended in murmurs. Bodies seeking forgiveness in the dark. Touches tentative then fervent. Reaffirming the bond. Spring crept in with almond blossoms dusting the valley. A fragile renewal. They marked it with a road trip down Highway 1. Windows down. Ocean spray kissing cheeks. Stops at cliffside diners yielded stories swapped over clam chowder. Riley's dream of policy work for queer youth. Autumn's itch for investigative pods. In a big Surin. Under rafters beamed like promises. They made plans moving in together. Perhaps a place in Oakland's hills. Away from Capitol ghosts. Love felt boundless then. Riley's head on her chest. Heartbeat a steady drum. This is home. But Voss's trial loomed. A summer spectacle in federal court. Riley was key witness. Her testimony a scalpel to the rot. Rehearsals were grueling. Mock cross-exams leaving her drained. Curling into Autumn's lap for decompression. "Hold me," she'd plead. And Autumn would. Rocking gently. Humming folk tunes from her mother's vinyls. The night before opening arguments. Anxiety peaked. Riley paced. Shadows under eyes like bruises. Autumn drew a bath. Eucalyptus steaming the air. Joining her in the tub's embrace. Hands soap skin in slow circles. Kisses trailing vertebrae. Easing into lovemaking that was worship, gentle, profound. A ritual against the fray. Court days blurred. Voss in a boxy suit. Glaring daggers. Riley on the stand. Voice unwavering as she detailed the ledgers. The threats. Autumn sat rows back. Notebook idle. Pride swelling with each unflinching answer. Whispers rippled, reporters noting the supportive partner in the gallery, but they held hands in the courthouse shadows. A quiet defiance. Verdict day brought catharsis. Guilty on all counts. Voss led away in cuffs. His empire ash. Elation crashed over them in a dive bar off K Street. Shots of mezcal burning sweet. "We did this," Riley toasted, lips brushing Autumn's ear. The night devolved into joy, dancing to a jukebox blues. Bodies pressed in the dim, hands wandering bold. Back home, celebration turned carnal, urgency giving way to languid exploration, laughter punctuating moans. As they spiraled together, Riley gasped, "I love you forever." Autumn echoed it, the words a seal. Yet in the quiet after, as rain pattered the roof, a letter arrived, Voss from jail, penned in his looping script. "You think it's over? I own pieces you'll never find." Paranoia flickered. But Autumn burned it in the sink, flame devouring the threat. "He's done," she said, pulling Riley close. Till sleep evaded, the past's embers glowing faint. Summer's heat wave blanketed Sacramento in a haze of asphalt shimmer and jasmine bloom. But for Autumn and Riley, it was a season of tentative bloom. Voss's conviction had cracked the dam. Headlines shifting from scandal to systemic rot, reforms whispered in assembly halls, ethics bills inching forward. Riley fielded offers like confetti, a fellowship at UC Davis for environmental policy, consulting gigs with green packs. Autumn's podcast pitch sold to NPR. Uncovered, a deep dive into power's underbelly. Success should have been euphoria, but it carried the weight of what-ifs. Voss's letter a thorn under the saddle. They decided on the move mid-July, packing Riley's loft into boxes labeled with inside jokes, scandal souvenirs, love letters, unredacted. The new place was a craftsman bungalow in Oakland's Temescal, terracotta roof and lemon tree in the yard. A world away from Capitol intrigue. Moving day was chaos laced with laughter. Riley belting show tunes while taping bubble wrap. Autumn wrestling a couch through the door. Sweat slicked and cursing. By nightfall, exhausted on the bare floor amid pizza boxes, they christened the space, bodies slow and sweet under the ceiling fan's whisper. The future tangible in every sigh. Oakland embraced them with its eclectic pulse. Farmers markets alive with queer vendors. Murals of fierce women on every corner. They fell into routines, mornings with espresso and the Chronicle. Evenings walking Lake Merritt. Hands linked without fear. Riley started her fellowship, commuting by BART. Her enthusiasm reigniting over dinner tales of student debates. Autumn recorded episodes in a corner office. Guests ranging from activists to ex-lobbyists. Her voice gaining the gravel of authority. Love wove through it all. Domestic and deep. Riley's habit of leaving notes in lunch bags. Think of my thighs when you're interviewing that suit. Autumn's surprise bouquets of wildflowers from roadside stands. But ghosts lingered. A month in, Autumn's producer flagged a listener tip. Donovan's got skeletons. Check her Berkeley days. Curiosity itched. But loyalty held her back, until a late-night Google spiral unearthed a dusty forum post. Anonymous. Alleging Riley had tanked a rival's campaign with doctored polls. Old news, Autumn told herself. But doubt festered, blooming in quiet moments. She broached it over tempeh tacos on the patio, fireflies dancing like accusations. Riley's fork paused. It was a white lie. To expose real fraud. I came clean years ago. Her eyes pleaded. And Autumn nodded. But the seed sprouted, watering with every new whisper. Fall brought harvest festivals and a rhythm of plenty. They hosted a housewarming, queer friends from Riley's grad circle. Autumn's newsroom allies, wine flowing. Vinyl spinning Fleetwood Mac. Riley shone. Anecdotes drawing laughs. But Autumn caught the sidelong glances. Murmurs about the whistleblower's girl. Later, tipsy in bed, Riley confessed the isolation. I feel like a specimen sometimes. The brave lesbian who toppled a giant. Autumn kissed her doubts away, bodies merging in a tangle of limbs and reassurances. But sleep came fitful, dreams of fractures widening. The real quake hit in October, during a Bay Area Book Fest panel where Autumn moderated a corruption ethics talk. Post-event, a graying man in a tweed jacket cornered her, former Berkeley prof, eyes sharp as scalpels. Donovan was brilliant, but ruthless. She slept her way into Voss's inner circle. You know. Ambition's her drug. The words slithered. Unsubstantiated. But they burrowed. That night, driving home over the bridge, Autumn gripped the wheel, foghorns moaning like warnings. Riley sensed the storm, hand on her knee. What happened? Over chamomile at the kitchen table. It spilled, the prof's claim. The old post. Voss's echoes. Is there more I don't know? Riley's face shuddered. Then cracked. I networked aggressively. Dinners. Drinks. Voss pursued me once. Early on power play. Not romance. I shut it down. But he held it over me. Tears tracked her cheeks. It wasn't sleeping up, it was surviving. The truth landed jagged. Not betrayal but a mirror to their own blurred lines, the motel risks, the gray ethics of their start. Autumn recoiled, pacing the Persian rug. Surviving? Or scheming? I need honesty. Riley, all of it. The argument escalated. Voices rising like tides. Riley hurling. You're judging me like the press, reducing me to scandal. Autumn's retort cut deep. Maybe because you keep handing them the knife. Silence descended, heavy as lead. Riley fled to the guest room, door clicking shut like a verdict. Autumn curled on the couch, replaying the hits. Love's foundation quaking. Dawn found her brewing piece. Pancakes with blueberries. Riley's favorite, but the door stayed closed. Days stretched taut. Polite cohabitation masking the chasm. Shared meals with averted eyes. Nights in separate beds. Autumn threw herself into work. Interviewing a whistleblower from Enron's fall. Parallels stinging. Riley buried in syllabi. Her laughter absent from the house. Reconciliation crept in fragments. A rainy Tuesday. Autumn home early with Thai delivery. Riley's guilty pleasure. They ate on the floor. Cross-legged like first dates. The spice loosening tongues. I hate this distance, Autumn admitted. Chopsticks hovering. Riley's gaze softened. Me too. I was scared of losing you to the truth. Vulnerability bridged. They talked till midnight, Riley detailing the Berkeley pressure cooker. The quid pro quo she'd navigated. Autumn owning her insecurities. The fear of being the story again. Hands clasped over cooling pad thai. The kiss reignited, hesitant, then hungry. Leading to the bedroom where forgiveness unfolded in whispers and caresses. Bodies rediscovering trust. Winter holidays loomed. A test of mending. They drove to Eureka for Riley's family, aunties and cousins in the creaking Victorian. Ocean roar constant companion. Tensions simmered. Riley's outing to kin awkward. Questions veiled but pointed. Autumn fielded them with grace. Her hand a steady anchor under the table. New Year's in Mendocino. Fog-shrouded. They toasted with local Pinot under stars. Resolutions murmured. More truth. Less fear. The cabin night was magic. fire crackling as they made love on a bearskin rug. Slow and soul-deep, Riley's cries echoing the waves. Spring 2026 bloomed resilient. Uncovered dropped its first season. Episodes charting their saga anonymized. Listener mail pouring praise. Riley students nominated her for teaching awards. Her confidence blooming. They adopted a rescue mutt, Luna, a wiry terrier mix who patrolled the yard with goofy vigilance. Love deepened in mundanities. Weekend hikes in Tilden Park. Riley's head on Autumn's shoulder during Pixar marathons. The quiet certainty of shared laundry. But May brought the aftershock. A Voss appeal hearing unearthed a bombshell. Riley's name on a minor slush fund transfer, not complicit, but administrative oversight, her signature on a routing form. The press pounced. Headlines screaming whistleblower's oversight? Autumn's phone buzzed with concern. Her producer urged a disclaimer episode. Riley crumbled in the kitchen, Luna whining at her feet. It was a mistake, blindly signing off. I didn't know. Autumn believed her. But the public tide turned. Old trolls revived. They faced it united. Riley issuing a statement. Errors and chaos don't erase truth. Autumn amplified with a blog post. Raw and righteous. Protests ensued, not against them, but for transparency. Their story a rallying cry. In the uproar, intimacy became refuge. Nights where they'd hold each other through sobs. Making love with a ferocity born of survival. Riley's nails raking Autumn's back as if to etch permanence. By summer's cusp, the appeal faltered. Voss's bid denied. They celebrated with a road trip to Yosemite. Granite monoliths mirroring their endurance. Under half-dome shadow, Riley dropped to one knee, not ring, but a promise, a silver band etched with truth and us. Tears blurred the vista as Autumn accepted, kissing her amid cheers from hikers. That night in the tent, stars wheeling overhead. Their union was sacred, bodies and souls entwined. Love's journey from scandal to sanctuary etched eternal. The promise band glinted on Riley's finger like a talisman against the tempests they'd weathered. Its inscription a private oath whispered in Yosemite's starlit hush. Back in Oakland, life unfurled in golden threads. Luna's zoom eyes across the lawn. Brunches at Temescal's queer cafe with mimosas and manifestos. Nights where they'd cook paella from Riley's Eureka recipes. Saffron staining fingers gold. Autumn's podcast hit charts. Invites to South by Southwest panels stacking like cordwood. Riley's fellowship evolved into a tenure-track whisper. Her lectures on eco-justice drawing diverse crowds, trans kids, immigrant families, mirrors to her own mended fractures. Yet peace was a garden demanding vigilance. Weeds of the past pushed through cracks. Late August. A documentary crew from HBO pitched Autumn. Scandal's shadow, their story. Voss's fall. The queer love at its heart. Authentic voices. The director schmoozed over Zoom. His Brooklyn accent slick. Riley balked in their kitchen. Elbows deep in sourdough. It'll dissect us. Make our pain spectacle. Autumn saw the merit, platform for reform. Reclaiming narrative, but Riley's eyes. Shadowed by memory. 1. Not yet, Autumn conceded. Kissing flour from her nose. The rejection stung the producer. But integrity tasted sweeter. September's equinox brought a pilgrimage. Fresno for Autumn's roots. The trailer park had gentrified into cookie-cutter homes. But her father's old lot stood barren. Weeds choking gravel. They stood there. Riley's arm looped in hers. As Autumn recounted summers of fireflies and father's tall tales. He'd say, "Chase the light. Hit before it chases you." At a roadside diner, paella mode melting, Riley shared her own Delta ghosts, Eureka's tides pulling at her queerness like undertow. Vulnerability bonded them deeper. The motel that night, a time machine of tender urgency, bodies mapping scars into stories. Fall foliage painted the Sierras crimson as they hiked Point Reyes, salt wind whipping hair. Midway up a trail, Riley faltered, not fatigue, but a call from her lawyer Voss. From prison. Suing for defamation. Naming Riley as co-conspirator in fabricated evidence. The claim was baseless. A vengeance Hail Mary. But it dredged the mire. Autumn's rage boiled. He's a relic. Rattling chains. Riley nodded. But anxiety etched her. Sleep fractured by what-ifs. They pressed on, reaching the lighthouse where waves crashed like catharsis, Riley's hand squeezing hers. "With you. I can face it." The suit dragged into October. Depositions via video from a supermax in Susanville. Voss's avatar on screen was diminished, gaunt, jowls sagging, but his eyes burned with spite. Cross-examining Riley on minutiae, that timestamp tweak. The slush signature. Autumn watched from off-camera. Heart pounding as Riley parried. Voice steady. Oversight in a toxic machine doesn't equate guilt. The judge dismissed mid-hearing. Sanctions on Voss for frivolity. But the toll lingered. Riley withdrew. Canceling classes. Luna her sole shadow. Autumn coaxed her out with drives to Muir Woods. Ancient redwoods whispering resilience. Their embraces amid ferns a reset. Halloween brought levity. A Temescal block party. Costumes as pulp reporters, trench coats. Fedoras. Fake notepads. They danced to a drag queen's lip sync of Bad Romance. Riley's laughter bubbling free. Paint-smudged cheeks glowing. Home by witching hour. Candy wrappers strewn. They shed disguises in the hallway. Kisses tasting of caramel and conquest. Lovemaking was playful then. Riley pinning Autumn with ticklish intent. Gasps dissolving into giggles. The night a spell against shadows. November elections loomed. A proxy war on Voss's legacy. Riley campaigned quietly for a reform-minded assemblywoman. Door-knocking in Oakland's flats. Autumn tagging along with coffee runs. One rainy canvas. Under a shared umbrella. A voter spat. "You the bitch who ruined Voss? Traitor." Riley stiffened. But Autumn stepped forward. Voice calm. She exposed corruption. "That's patriotism." The door slammed. But Riley's grip tightened. Gratitude in her eyes. That evening, over split pea soup, she admitted, "I used to crave approval. Now, yours is enough." Thanksgiving anchored them. A potluck with Autumn's auntie from Fresno. Riley's Eureka aunties zooming in. Tables groaning with turkey and tamales. Toasts veered sentimental. To truths that set us free. Tears mingling with mirth. Post-feast. In the quiet kitchen. Riley pulled Autumn into a slow dance. No music but the fridge's hum. "You're my family," she murmured. And the kiss deepened. Leading to the rug where gratitude unfolded in whispers and arches. Bodies a Thanksgiving of flesh. December solstice chill prompted a getaway. A cabin in Guerneville. Russian River's wine country. Vines heavy with dormant promise. They kayaked glassy waters. Picnicked with local chèvre and baguettes. Evenings by the wood stove. Riley sketching policy briefs. Autumn outlining book chapters. Their worlds overlapping like puzzle pieces. One night. Stars thick as ink. Riley confessed a dream deferred. Kids. Not now. But someday. With you. Autumn's heart swelled, envisioning mini MES with Riley's curls, chasing fireflies. Yes, she breathed, sealing it with a kiss that bloomed into passion. The river's lap a serenade. New Year's dawn crisp. Resolutions etched on fogged windows. Build. Not chase. The suit's dismissal made news. A footnote in Voss's irrelevance. They rang in the year on their roof. Champagne flutes clinking to fireworks over the bay. Luna yipping at bursts. Midnight's kiss was profound. Tongues tangling with intent. Hands roaming under coats till chill drove them inside. The bedroom became altar. Love-making a vow, Riley atop. Gaze locked. Hips a deliberate rhythm. Autumn's name a litany on her lips. Climax shattered like stars. Afterglow cradling confessions. Fears of fading passion. Dreams of permanence. Winter thawed into a verdant spring. Their love a perennial. Autumn's book deal landed. Exposed. Love in the Lines of Power. A memoir weaving scandal and heart. Riley co-authored a chapter. Her voice threading vulnerability. Signings drew crowds. Queer icons buying stacks. Hugs exchanged like currency. One event in SF's Castro. Rainbow flags snapping. A fan gushed. You too give me hope. Riley's hand in Autumn's. Band cool against palm. Echoed it silently. But June's Pride Month unearthed a buried root. Riley's phone buzzed with a collect call. From Voss. Voice crackled. Tell your girlfriend I know her secrets. The real ones. Click. Riley paled. Deleting the log. But Autumn pressed. What secrets? Riley hesitated. Then spilled. A college incident. A forged rec letter to snag an internship. Buried deep. I was 19. Desperate. Not damning. But a echo of grays. Autumn absorbed it. Hugging tight. We've all got archives. Yours doesn't define us. The call was traced, a prison ploy. No teeth, but it stirred therapy sessions. Joint with a queer counselor in Berkeley. Sessions peeled layers. Riley's imposter syndrome. Autumn's abandonment echoes. Breakthroughs came in tears and triumphs. Intimacy post-session electric. As if unburdening amplified desire. One July Eve. After a particularly raw hour, they made love on the living room floor. Sunlight slanting golden. Touches reverent. Riley's sobs of release mingling with moans. Summer peaked in a ceremony. Backyard vows under the lemon tree. Luna in a bow tie. Friends witnessing. Rings exchanged simple gold. Engraved anew. In truths and tempests, Riley intoned. And Autumn's I do sealed it. Kiss salt sweet. The reception spilled into night. Toast to endurance. Dances barefoot on grass. Alone at last. Under sheets scented with citrus. Their union was consummation, passionate. Profound. A symphony of sighs cresting in shared ecstasy. Yet as leaves turned. A final specter. Voss's death in custody. Heart attack at 68. Obituaries whitewashed. But Riley mourned the mentor he'd been. Not the monster. Autumn held her through grief's vigil. Love a steady flame. In the quiet. They planned ahead adoption seminars. A sabbatical in Portland. Light. Scarred but whole. Stretched inviting. Autumn's book launch in fall 2026 was a kaleidoscope of spotlights and signed spines. The Oakland bookstore packed with familiar faces, podcast superfans clutching dog-eared copies, Riley's students beaming pride. She read from the dedication, "To R. Who taught me that love is the boldest byline." Applause thundered. But Riley's eyes, front row, held the real thunder love, unfiltered, pulling Autumn through the podium nerves. Post-reading. They slipped away to a speakeasy in Jack London Square. Gin fizzes sweating in the jazz hum. Toasting Chapter 2. Their marriage, though not yet legal in the bureaucratic sense, felt etched in marrow. Mornings began with coffee rituals, Autumn grinding beans, Riley journaling dreams, Luna nosing for crumbs. Weekends wandered Jack London markets, baskets brimming with heirlooms and herbs, afternoons lost in the hammock with dog-eared Vonnegut's. Intimacy evolved, less urgency, more ritual, bubble baths with eucalyptus, Riley's fingers massaging knots from Autumn's shoulders, leading to slow, savoring unions where time dissolved, only breath and heartbeat remaining. Winter's grip loosened into a bountiful 2027. Riley's tenure bit advanced, her paper on queer eco-policy cited in journals. Autumn's second season of Uncovered tackled big tech surveillance, interviews with hackers in hoodies. Success buffered them, a college fund seeded for future imaginings, trips to Taos for Adobe warmth and stargazing. But prosperity invited envy. An old Sentinel colleague, bitter over slights, leaked a hit piece, Hale's Halo, how Scandal Sex sold the story. It fizzled, fact-checks shredded it, but the sting lingered. Riley icing over dinners, withdrawing into work. Autumn addressed it head-on during a Marin hike, waves crashing below like unresolved chords. It's noise. We know our truth. Riley halted on the bluff, wind tousling curls. But what if it's right? Did I taint you? The question cracked open old veins. Riley's ambition as both gift and ghost. Autumn cupped her face, thumbs brushing tears. You liberated me. The kiss there, salty with sea and sorrow, reignited on the trail's end, a secluded cove where they made love against driftwood, urgent and unashamed. Ocean roar drowning doubts. Spring birth renewal, adoption classes in SF, home studies with social workers probing their stability, vulnerability exposed, Riley's custody fears from her fractured youth, autumns of inadequacy, but bonds with foster kids during visits melted reservations. One boy, with freckles like hers, drew them pictures of family adventures. Luna's approval sealed it, tail wags for all. June pride swelled Oakland streets. There flowed a pod of podcasters and policy wonks. Rainbows draped. Riley emceed a stage, voice booming on intersectionality. Autumn cheering from the crowd. Heart bursting. Nightcap at a dive. Shots of tequila led to dawn romps. Riley waking Autumn with teasing touches. Laughter weaving through moans. Bodies a canvas of joy. Midsummer. Crisis crested. Riley's auntie in Eureka. Cancer's quiet siege. Called for end-of-life care. They drove north. The Victorian a hospice of salt air and stories. Riley nursed with grace, reading poetry by her bedside. Autumn cooking pots of clam chowder. The auntie's passing was gentle, waves lapping eulogy. But grief hollowed Riley. Her vibrancy dimmed. Autumn anchored, walks on the headlands, hands clasped against wind. Nights holding vigil as sobs subsided into sleep. Healing came in layers, scattering ashes at sea. A tattoo in tribute, anchor intertwined with wave, mirroring their own entanglement. Post-funeral, In a B&B overlooking the surf, they mourn through touch. Love making a dirge turning dirge to dawn. Riley's whispers of thanks amending. Fall's harvest yielded fruit. A match with siblings. 5 and 7. Biracial fosterlings from the valley, Elias and Sophia. Wide-eyed with wonder. Homecoming was chaos. Finger paints on walls. Bedtime stories tripling. Luna a patient sentinel. Parenting stretched them, sleepless nights with nightmares. School runs amid traffic, but joy rooted deep. Elias's gap-toothed grin at pancakes. Sophia's hugs like vines. Date nights became sacred. Babysitters enlisted for escapes to Napa. Vineyard strolls dissolving into grassy trysts. Wine loose and loving. Thanksgiving 2027 was abundance. The bungalow table extended. Aunties and allies crammed elbow to elbow. Kids' crafts as centerpieces. Toasts veered to legacy. From scandal to family. Tears and turkey mingling. Post-feast. Kidsabet. They slow danced in the kitchen. Riley's head on shoulder. Murmuring. This is the story I never knew I craved. Winter holidays twinkled. Tree trimming with ornaments from their saga. A tiny Capitol dome. A Yosemite pinecone. New Year's Eve. Kids with cousins. They snuck to the hot tub at a Berkeley spa. Steam veiling kisses. Hands exploring underwater. Climax bubbling like champagne. Resolutions. Nurture the now. 2028 dawned with legal strings pulled. Adoption finalized in a courtroom bathed in light. Judges gavel a blessing. Papers signed. Elias and Sophia legally theirs. The drive home erupted in cheers. Ice cream detours. Home. Backyard barbecue with the village. Laughter echoing as kids chased Luna. That night. Kids tucked. They celebrated in the master bath. Candlelit tub a haven. Body slick and slow. Riley's gaze holding Autumn's through release. Hours. All hours. Spring's bloom coincided with Riley's tenure grant. A ceremony in Davis where Autumn hooped loudest. Elias's baseball league. Sophia's ballet recitals filled weekends. Their love threading through carpools and cheers. One May Eve. Post-recital. With roses in hair. They escaped to the attic, dusty with boxes, for a parent's retreat. Amid relics. They unpacked hearts. Fears of imperfection. Joys of witness. Love-making there was nostalgic. Fervent. The house's creaks a chorus. Summer's heat wave tested. A valley trip to Fresno roots. Kids meeting grandma's grave. Planting marigolds. Elias asked about the bad man from stories. Riley fielded gently. He taught mommy to be brave. Autumn swelled with pride. Their tandem parenting a dance. But August brought a tremor. An anonymous email to Autumn's work. Riley's old Berkeley rival. Dredging the forged letter. Threatening exposure. For the kids' sake, it menaced. Autumn showed Riley over breakfast. Syrup congealing. Riley's face ashen. I told you everything. Investigation revealed the sender. Rival's bitterness. No proof. They lawyered up. Countersuit quashing it. But the scare reopened wounds. Therapy resumed. Family sessions now. Kids drawing strong families. Riley emerged fiercer. Channeling into a youth mentorship program. Fall's equinox marked 5 years since the fountain meet. Anniversary in Big Sur. Kids with aunties. Cliff House Suite. Ocean Vista. They renewed vows on the deck. Seals barking approval. Dinner at Nepenthe. Sunset toasting endless chapters. Night's passion was epic. Riley's mouth a map of memory. Autumn's hands claiming anew, peaks crashing like surf. As leaves turn, a new chapter beckoned. Riley's book deal. Co-written with Autumn. Hearts in the headlines. Outlining sessions in cafes. Kids napping. Laughter laced with lust. Stolen kisses over laptops leading to bathroom quickies. Muffled and merry. Winter wrapped them warm. Holidays with extended kin. Sledding in Tahoe. Cocoa-mustached kids. New Year's under the lemon tree. Fireworks distant. They made wishes, health, harmony. Sealed with a kiss blooming into the guest room. Bodies timeless. Life's arc bent toward grace. Scars to stars. Elias's first home run. Sophia's poem recital. Milestones marked with Riley's tears. Autumn's cheers. Their love, forged in fire, glowed steady morning coffees, midnight cuddles. The quiet knowledge that in each other's gaze, home resided. By 2030, the bungalow had expanded, a sunroom addition for Riley's office. Swing set creaking under Elias's acrobatics. Sophia's herb garden perfuming the air with basil and dreams. Autumn's podcast evolved into a network. Uncovered spawning spin-offs on climate justice and queer rights. Riley chaired a state task force on policy equity. Her voice in Sacramento halls a far cry from the shadowed aid of old. The kids thrived. Elias, lanky at 12, debating ethics in youth council. Sophia, 9 and fierce, penning stories of girl heroes. Luna, gray-muzzled, held court from the porch, a matriarch in fur. Their love, now a decade deep, wore comfortably, like the faded teas they lounged in on lazy Sundays. Pancakes sizzling. Kids chatter a soundtrack. Anniversaries marked with whimsy. The 10th. A fountain picnic in Sacramento. Anonymous tips recreated as love notes. Laughter bubbling freer than champagne. Intimacy remained vital. Date nights at Temescal's Jazz Club. Slow dances dissolving into homeward haste. Bedroom doors locked for hours of rediscovery. Riley's curves still a wonder. Autumn's touch still electric. Yet time's tide brought reckonings. Elias, hitting puberty shoals, unearthed Autumn's old clips, the Voss takedown, questioning in the carpool line. Were you scared? Mom. Honesty bridged. Terrified. But love made me brave. Sophia. Intuitive. Drew comics of super sources. Riley as caped crusader. Parenting's profundity deepened their bond. Conferences tag-teamed. Fevers tag-relieved. The us against the worlds we amplified. Spring 2030 bloomed a milestone. Family road trip to Yellowstone. Geysers erupting like joy. Tent nights under bison shadows. Kids roasting marshmallows. Riley's head on Autumn's lap as stars wheeled. One midnight. Slipping from sleeping bags. They wandered to a meadow. Bison silhouettes distant guardians. There, on wild grass, they made love whispered. Wondereth. The earth's pulse sinking theirs. Climax a silent thunder. Summer's heat yielded to a curve. Riley's diagnosis, early stage breast cancer. Caught in routine scan. The word oncology landed like Voss's gavel. But resolve armored them. Consults in crisp white rooms. Riley's hand crushing Autumn's. We'll fight. Together. Kids shielded with age-soft truths. Aunties rallying for sleepovers. Chemo's toll was tidal, nausea waves. Hair falling like autumn leaves, but Riley's spirit buoyed. Wig-styled punk. Jokes cracking through fatigue. Autumn became sentinel. Broth simmering. Appointments chauffeured. Nights holding as chills racked. Love manifested in minutiae foot rubs post-infusion. Playlists of Joni and Joan for infusions. Intimacy adapted. Gentle caresses when energy waned. Fierce claims on good days. Riley atop. Reclaiming agency. Gasps affirming life. Falls leaves mirrored the fight radiation rounds. Scans clean. Remission whispered by Thanksgiving. Table laden with gratitude. Elias carved the turkey. Sophia led grace. For warriors and wonders. Toasts tiered. To Riley. Our North Star. Winter healed. Holiday lights strung defiant. Sledding with scarves hiding ports. New Year's. Kids abed. They soaked in the clawfoot. Bubbles veiling vulnerability. You saved me, Riley murmured. Fingers tracing Autumn's collarbone. The bath led to bed. Love making a rebirth slow. Sacred. Tears salting skin. Peaks a promise of tomorrows. 2031 dawn victorious. Riley's all clear. Task force reforms passing. A bill bearing her name, Donovan Equity Act. Celebrations cascaded. Capitol reception. Family feast. Kids' pride swelled. Elias's essay on mom's bravery won school prize. Life's tapestry wove richer. Sophia's first crush. Awkward and sweet. Riley's birds and bees talk a masterclass. Elias's bar mitzvah blended rites. Autumn's Jewish roots honored. Community a chorus. Vacations to Hawaii. Lava flows mirroring renewal. Snorkels revealing coral worlds. Anniversaries layered. 15th at the speakeasy. Jazz crooning their song. Riley. Curls regrown silver streaked. Proposed renewal. Marry me legal? Autumn's yes sealed with courthouse vows. Rings resized. Kids as witnesses. Reception in the backyard. Lemon tree bower. Dances till dawn. Intimacy's flame burned eternal. Milestone mornings with champagne breakfasts in bed. Bodies knowing paths worn deep. One anniversary eve. Kids at camp. They drove to Mendocino. Victoria now Riley's retreat. On the widow's walk. Ocean vast. They undressed in moonlight. Love-making on linen scented with salt, passionate. Profound. Riley's cries carried by wind. Autumn's heart her harbor. Challenges came gentle. Empty nest whispers as kids eyed colleges. Riley's sabbatical in Portland teaching. They nested anew tango classes. Where dips led to desirous glances. A memoir sequel. Voices intertwined. By 2035. Elias at Berkeley Poli-Sci. Sophia in high school theater. The bungalow echoed freer. Grandkids loomed in dreams. But now savored coupledom. European rambles. Paris cafes kissing under Eiffel glow. Back home. Luna's successor. A collie pup named Echo chased balls. Life cycling. One crisp autumn. Sacramento fountain revisit. Kids home for reunion. Water dancing. Stories retold. Laughter layering scars to silk. Riley. Hand in autumn's. Whispered. Our hook was fate, our end. Choice. Autumn kissed her temple. No end. Just more. Years folded like pages. 70s brought aches eased by each other. Joint therapy for hips. But hearts hail. 80th twin celebrated. Kids and grands orbiting. Legacy bloomed. Foundations in their names. Scholarships for queer journalists. In twilight. Porch rockers creaking. Hands veined and linked. They watch sunsets paint the bay. Best story, Riley sighed one eve. Head on shoulder. Autumn smiled. Ours. The end came soft. Riley first. Spring 2052. Garden bloom. Autumn holding through last breath. Love you. Always. Grief's ocean vast. But memories buoys. Autumn lived on. Book tours with grands. Fountain pilgrimages annual. 90. Penning finale. Epilogue, eternal byline. She toasted the woman who'd been source. Lover. Life. Riley's absence a quiet echo. But love's print indelible in kids' eyes. Grandkids' laughs. The band still worn. In final days. Autumn at the fountain. Mist veiling. Felt her. We uncovered more than scandal. We found home.